The philosophy of St. Thomas Aquinas is by and large an attempt to reconcile the pagan philosophy of Aristotle with the Christian theology of Aquinas' time. As a result, when it comes to the soul, he's faced with quite the challenge. You see, for Aristotle, the soul is a life-giving force, and so not just humans, but even plants have a soul, which doesn't seem very Christian. Plants have a nutritive soul capable of nutrition, growth, and reproduction. Animals have a sensitive soul which contains all the powers of the nutritive, plus sense perception and locomotion. Humans have a rational soul which contains all the powers of the lesser souls, plus reason. The soul is the form of the body. Without a form, there isn't a body, there's just a splodge of formless matter. The soul organises and structures matter into a particular form that enables it to perform living functions, thus making it a living thing. Aristotle doesn't appear to have his hopes up regarding the possibility of an afterlife. Just as you cannot separate an imprint in wax from the wax itself, so the soul, as the form of the body, is inseparable from the body. Aquinas accepts that the soul is the form of the body, and even that plants have souls. So how is he going to explain how human souls alone go to heaven? Well, let's find out. First of all, plants and animals don't go to heaven, I'm sorry to say, so that's that one dealt with. It's only the rational soul that can experience eternal life, because only it is divinely given, according to Aquinas. The nutritive and sensitive souls develop biologically. Even a human being at conception forms a nutritive soul, which then biologically transforms into a sensitive soul. It is only later on in pregnancy that God infuses a human being with the rational soul. How can the rational soul survive the death of the body? For Aquinas, as with Aristotle, the body and soul are not two individual substances. Instead, the body-soul composite forms an individual substance. Aquinas answers that the soul can subsist from the body, even though it is not a substance. Without getting too bogged down in terminology here, for Aristotle, substance is the essence of a thing, composed of matter and form. A rock is a substance, living things are substances. A subsistence is the shadowy brother of substance. It's an existing non-substance. To see how this might be possible, let's just ignore Aquinas and Aristotle for one moment. The individual wizard, Harry Potter, exists in a certain sense. We can make factual statements about Harry Potter's childhood, we can canonically get things wrong. If I say that Harry Potter's best friend was Draco Malfoy, I have made an error. Harry Potter, we could say, is a subsistence, not a substance. Okay, back to Aquinas. I use the idea of Harry Potter just to make the idea of subsistence seem more concrete and not just sort of made up. For Aquinas, a subsistent form, as philosopher Eleonore Stump explains, is a little like the foundation and structural shell of an unfinished house. It can exist on its own, but it's not a complete house. Similarly, the soul can exist apart from the body, even though it's only a complete substance when it's united with the body. Now, before Socrates died, his friends asked him how he'd like to be buried, and Socrates replied that they'll have to catch him first. You see, for Socrates, or at least for Plato, who wrote the dialogue Phaedo, the real you is your soul. By contrast, Aquinas explicitly denies that he is his soul. I am not my soul, he writes. Why? Because the soul is merely a subsistent form. The real you is your body-soul composite. Now, this is all getting very confusing, but good news, it's about to get more confusing once we understand Aquinas' eschatology. You see, for Aquinas, upon your death, your soul will be immediately judged. It will get to enjoy a blissful vacation in heaven or a less blissful stay in hell. During the end times and the last judgment, there occurs a bodily resurrection, and your soul and body will be reunited, and bang, the you is back. But if your soul isn't really you, what justifies its reward in heaven or damnation in hell for the things that you did? And what justifies you not experiencing those states? It's like you putting in all the hard work and someone else taking all the credit. This is how some scholars read Aquinas, but Stump argues that this portrayal is a gross misinterpretation of his views, which become clearer once we understand his distinction between constitution and identity. Let's start with a simple analogy. While the constitution of a human being normally includes 2 hands, you would still exist, and you would still be you if your hands got chopped off. That is to say, you would still be you even if you are not constituted of all the normal parts. Similarly, the metaphysical constituents of a human being normally include matter and form, or put more Christianly, body and soul. However, Aquinas believes that you can still exist while only being constituted by one of these metaphysical parts, namely the soul. Just as how you can exist separate from your amputated hands, even though a human being's constitution normally includes 2 hands, so too can you exist as a soul separate from your body, even though a human being's metaphysical constitution normally includes both body and soul. This doesn't mean you are identical with your soul, of course. As we've mentioned many times, you are a body-soul composite, but the soul alone is sufficient for the existence of the person. There's so much more we can say about Aquinas and the soul, and it's fascinating, but I think I've put enough on the table for now. If you have any questions, pop them in the comments, and I'll try and get around to answering them if I know the answer. For now, thank you for watching, and see you next time.